Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings. So we do have rain and thunderstorm warnings issued in the south over the next 24 hours. So we have a lot of heavy rain that has pushed through already, and we've got even more with, as I said, thunderstorms pushing in today and tomorrow. We'll have a look at the raw precipitation charts on the UKV along with the temperatures, and then we'll run through the GFS, GEM, ECMWF and the ensembles, looking at the mid to longer range as it's remaining very unsettled over the next week or so. But towards the middle of the month, it does look like there will be a pressure rise. We have alluded to the potential for blocking. That still does look like a real possibility in the second half of the month. But from what we're seeing on the models at the moment, in their time frame, it's just a build-up of pressure from the south. Initially actually telling us quite warm, but there is the potential for cold weather from around the 15th to 20th of November onwards. So out of the 10-day time frame for the GM and the ECMWF, and out of the 14-day time frame for the GFS. So we'll have to see what they're hinting at today, but they all are showing a pressure rise. So even if we don't see any cold weather towards the second half of the month, at least there could be a bit of drier weather around, because we have had some very unsettled conditions recently. So, do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So, if we do start on the live radar, you can see the massive expansive showers and rain. Now, you can see that bit of a weather front that has been lingering across the southeast that called the yellow rain warning to be issued. That is now slowly clearing eastwards, but has dumped a lot of rain over the course of this morning in areas in the southeast, in 25 to 50 millimetres in quite a few areas, but this will be a small localized area of low pressure here. You can see a little bit of a spiral here. That is going to have a lot of showers and thunderstorms wrapping around it, as it already does, and that will be moving along the south of England. And we could see some big, heavy, thundery, slow-moving showers here, so even more rain could fall over the course of today and tomorrow, especially the southwest and the south and southeast. Further northwards, still a few showers around, but not too expansive, but it's got a bit of a dip in the jet. That means all this rain is further southwards than it has been recently. So precipitation is still plenty, but is moving slightly down more towards the south over the next couple of days. Now, if you put on the temperatures as around at midday, you'll be able to see that those temperatures are not particularly mild at all. Some yellows showing low teens, but mostly blues, which is sort of 9, 10, 11. So not too cold this time of year, but compared to what we've had recently, it is pretty chilly out there, and it's not going to really warm up at all today, especially in those areas that have the precipitation. That's going to be the continuing signal over the next few days, when we do have around average upper air temperatures, but a lot of rain, cloud and wind around, which is going to hold those temperatures down. As I said, with the build of pressure towards the middle of the month, we could see temperatures respond back towards the mid-teens, perhaps, but it could be a precursor to cold weather. So we'll have to see what happens with that. And if we also do put on the past 24-hour precipitation, again, this is radar estimates, so again, not the exact amount of precipitation that has fallen, but radar estimates. You can see the expanse of rain that has fallen not only over Scotland with the weather fronts initially, but that is expected relief rainfall over the higher ground, but across the south of England. Look at all of these yellow areas showing 40, 50, 60 millimetres of rain, and again, when we have that yellow warning yesterday through parts of Kent and the London area, huge amounts of rainfall have fallen overnight, and again, it's going to just be more falling with heavy thunderstorms over the course of the next 24 hours. So if we do look at the weather warnings, we do have 2 thunderstorm warnings and a yellow rain warning remaining. Now, this warning expires around 3 p.m, so by the time you actually view this video, it probably has expired, but still could be some persistent rain around. But it does get replaced by 2 thunderstorm warnings. We have one from 8 p.m. tonight until 6 a.m. tomorrow. Heavy showers and thunderstorms likely to bring some disruption. Again, looking at the further details, following recent wet weather, further heavy and slow-moving showers and thunderstorms will affect parts of south and southeast England during Thursday evening and overnight. Downpours are likely to be the most frequent along the coast. Some locations could see 30 to 40 millimetres in a few hours. High likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. Again, if we hadn't had so much rain recently, I wouldn't think we'd see a thunderstorm warning issued for this, but I think it's because we have the potential for those very high rainfall rates on top of saturated ground, means localised flooding is more likely than usual. We also have one across parts of southern Wales and south west England from 3 p.m. today until midnight. Again, heavy showers and thunderstorms will cross southwest Wales and then parts of southwest England during the second half of Thursday, following heavy rainfall in the past 24 hours. Again, 30 to 40 millimetres is possible, and 50 to 60 millimetres in terms of gusts as well. Again, high end of the likelihood, low end of the impact. And of course, that warning in the south and southeast does continue into Friday as well. So got to keep an eye on that for early hours of Friday. But overnight tonight, there could be some issues. So make sure you do take care out there if you're out tonight. If you've got any areas that are prone to flooding, make sure you do take the necessary precautions to keep any property or anything safe from any flooding damage. So we do now have a look at the raw precipitation charts from the UKV. You can see all that heavy rain in the southeast overnight last night, spreading slowly southwards eastwards. So by around this afternoon, by the time you're viewing this video, most of it should have cleared. But you can see a lot of the oranges and reds starting to appear across Southern Ireland and southwest England, southern Wales as well, as thunderstorms are starting to brew. You can see they are moving inland, but the most tense showers and storms are along the coast, and it continues to spread eastwards, and you can see that peppering the far south and southeast through tonight, giving some very heavy rain at a time. Again, I wouldn't suspect this would be a thunderstorm warning in any normal situation, but I think it's because we had such saturated ground is why we are seeing it. Eventually it should clear away, and tomorrow, as I said in yesterday's video, should be a pretty decent day. Look, pretty bright and pretty dry, so if you've got any plans, Friday actually looks like quite a good day to get out there and do it. A few showers around at times, but again, nothing too crazy. And if we do spread through into Saturday, a weather front does arrive. So heavy rain pushing through, arriving around 10, 11 a.m. Eventually for eastern areas, but around sunrise in western areas. Eventually spreading through, and it should clear by the early to late evening, depending on how far eastwards you are. But it shouldn't be too heavy. It does look like here it's going to be mostly light, patchy on and off rain. Could be some drizzle mixed in with that, so it won't be too bad, but still might be a bit miserable if you've got any plans out on Saturday and into Sunday. Again, a few heavy showers around, so it could be quite blustery and horrible at times, but there will be plenty of sunshine and dry weather through the evening as well. Doesn't look too bad before more heavier rain potentially arrives around 10 p.m, especially across the West Midlands, Wales, and then again southern England being peppered by some showers, and into Monday some more persistent rain moving through. Could be quite miserable there, and again just loads of showers and areas of heavy rain. Now, if we do look at those temperatures over the next 5 days, you can see this afternoon temperatures really peaking maybe 12 or 13, widely, as I said, 10. Maybe 9, 10, 11. Into tomorrow, it could be a little bit better. Early morning, could be quite cold, low single digits potentially for some. But by tomorrow afternoon, those temperatures could rise more widely to sort of 11, 12, 13. And could feel a little bit better with a bit more sunshine around. But there still will be a bit of a breeze, so it could still feel a little bit chilly. Into Saturday, still overnight could be quite cold. But into Saturday afternoon, you can see milder from the west with a wedge of milder air moving in, but that's because of the weather front, so it'll be accompanied by cloud and rain, so it probably wouldn't feel all too mild. And into Sunday, you can see those temperatures once again 10 to 14 degrees, but not feeling particularly mild really when you have a lot of that rain around, feeling actually quite chilly. And finally into Monday, again, seeing those temperatures potentially rising to maybe 15 or 16 as slightly milder air starting to push in from the south and the west. But as we saw for the precipitation charts, it's actually going to be accompanied by a lot of heavy rain, so again, might not feel all too great at the surface. So if we do now go over to the GFS and have a look at what that is doing over the next couple of weeks, again it has shown some very interesting blocking patterns, and it does generally look like there will be quite a big high pressure build over the next couple of weeks into the second half of November. So we'll see what it's showing. Again, a westerly flow at the moment, that brief ridge of high pressure on Friday into Saturday, that's why we got some dry weather then, but again more of a westerly flow all the way into next week. Again, quite Atlantic driven, But watch that, around day 10, a pressure build. Initially, a very warm, mild, southerly wind. Look at that, 10-degree isotherm moving in, maybe even 12-degree isotherm moving in. Very warm there. For eventually, in the longer term, it tries to shift northwards. And you have an attempt at pulling cold air into Eastern Europe. Look at all that cold air flooding into Eastern Europe. And some of the ensemble members and other runs recently have tried to pull that in from an easterly into the UK. But the GFS today just keeps us under the higher pressure before westerlies win out. So again, a pressure build from around day 10 on the GFS today, trying to shift it northwards, but not quite coming off. Still interesting sign because it is early days. Of course, the weekly anomalies that we have been looking at in the weekly winter look aheads have been suggesting around the 15th, 20th onwards. This is very early time frame for that blocking to our north, but it is potentially hinting on that blocking, trying to push northwards, trying to get that high pressure into the northern latitudes. So it is something to keep an eye on. And of course, if we do get that cold air developing towards Eastern Europe, it wouldn't take too much of an easterly or northerly wind, or northeasterly really, to be putting in some very, very cold air towards the end of the month. It's something to keep an eye on. Perhaps it won't happen at the time frame the GFS is showing here. Maybe that high pressure build we do see doesn't turn into anything cold, but it's the pattern of high pressure trying to penetrate into the Arctic. That is the interesting thing. And if that signal recurs through the end of November into early December, when air masses do cool down more, we could see something much colder. It is, again, something to keep an eye on. If we do have a look at the GM, see how that does compare. Again, low pressure running in off the Atlantic at the moment, brief ridge of high pressure on Friday, and just continues to feel really unsettled. Similar to the GFS, big pressure build at day 10. Again, doesn't get quite as far northwards as the GFS does, but it does actually put up a really balmy southerly wind, incredibly mild. And again, sometimes in winter you actually get the mildest weather precursed by the coldest weather precursed by mild weather when we get the push of high pressure into the Arctic. But this GM run definitely is just a warm sort of run. Look at that, incredible temperature deviation there, ridiculously warm. Again, if we look at the surface conditions for this, the 2 meter temperatures go to the UK. Look at that, sort of 16, 17, 18 degrees, really warm there. Incredible conditions for mid-November. That's probably sort of Indian summer type pattern, really. It'll be feeling incredibly mild with the upper air temperatures getting towards 14, 15 degrees. Ridiculous. But again, it's one run, as we see in the ensembles in a minute. Most of them do go quite mild, but not that mild. If we do look at the ECMWF, see how that does compare. Again, a westerly wind at the moment, turning things very unsettled, or continuing to be very unsettled, and eventually see that pressure build in the longer term, trying to build towards Scandinavia. Again, could be a precursor to cold weather, but again, nothing seeing on that at this stage. And again, look at the upper air temperatures, a southerly wind, but nowhere near as mild as GM, with those air masses to our south, not quite that warm, but around 5 or 10 degrees, around sort of 6 to 8 degrees above average for this time of year. But all this warmth building towards Scandinavia could, as I said, be a precursor to blocking. I know we're sort of clutching at straws here, but we've got that signal in the longer term from the winter look aheads from all of the various climate drivers for a blocked start to winter with single ECMWF weekly anomalies. So it is there, and we just got to see how the short range models do deal with it and how they see it when it comes into the sort of short range. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. But at the time being, most of the models are actually going for quite a warm few days in the middle of November. And if we do compare it to the ensemble members, you can see that real warm push in the longer term. Most of the ensemble members go around 8, 9, 10 degrees at 850 HPA. So warm, around 5 degrees above average, but nothing like the GEM goes, which is 15 degrees at 850 HPA. So incredibly mild there. But for the time being, you can see we are around average for the next sort of week or so, with quite a few precipitation spikes before high pressure built in around the 10th, 11th, and it does trend more towards average. And you can see, again, not too bad, with upper air temperatures actually rising well above average around the 12th or 13th before, as I said, trending back towards average with lower precipitation signal as well. Again, look at the 2 meter temperatures. You can see there is a bit of a peak there around 13th, 14th, but nothing exceptional because the sun strength is so weak now. Daylight hours are very short, so getting 15, 16 degrees is really quite a struggle, even with these sort of air masses. But it would be quite mild if we did see that in the longer term. And again, keep an eye on the sea level pressure. You can see a massive rise in the longer term, high pressure building in, so definitely a signal for high pressure building in over the course of the next couple of weeks. But again, something to keep an eye on, of course, if it does develop further northwards, which could bring some more interesting additions towards the end of the month. But for the time being, we've got thunderstorms over the next couple of days, remaining fairly unsettled over the next 5 to 7 days, then higher pressure building in from the south over the top of us, which will give initially dry and quite warm conditions, but we've got to keep an eye on what happens beyond that, whether it just goes back westerly again, or whether that high pressure does stick around towards the second half of the month and could give us something more colder potentially. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.